And we are go.
All right. So good morning, everybody. It is Friday, April the 8th. So obviously the important mantra is the slaughterhouse of failure is not in our destiny. We shall persevere until we succeed, Augmendino modified. So today we're going to talk about the scoreboard of life, but the scoreboard. And, if you think about it, everything is about a measurement. When you go to a game, the first thing you look at is the score. How much is time left? In life, how far is it? How heavy is it? How many people went? Who won? How much is it? What is the cost? How much profit was there? There's a measurement for everything. And basically, we're looking at a modified version of the wigs, the leads, and the lags. Lead and lag measurements. That's basically what we're looking at, and that's what scoring is all about. Dan?
Yeah, exactly. And this is like you said, this is just kind of a modified version, John Maxwell's version of 4 disciplines of execution or lead and lag measures. Every game, every facet of our life has its own rules and its own definitions of what it means to win and how you're going to keep track of things. So, some teams are going to measure their success in points earned, profits, how many units they create, how many people you serve. And it's really important as a team to know, where you stand to help you accomplish your goals as a team. And we have a couple of tools available to us to do that. And we're going to talk a little bit about the wellness scoreboard and the whiteboard, the Excel spreadsheet that helps you kind of track your team's performance. But I think it's not only important for you to know where your team stands, but it's also important for the team to know where the team stands. Because you're really relying on your team to continually adjust how they're doing things, what they're doing to improve themselves, their situation, and the team situation. So, teams may plan for the way they want to play the game, but the scoreboard dictates how the game needs to be played and how we're going to achieve our goals, how we're going to achieve those lead and lag measures, and how we set those up. So, the scoreboard is really essential. It defines the reality of where you are, where you're headed. It makes everyone aware of what the goals are, how you're going to reach those goals. It informs your decision makers of where you're at that moment in reality. It influences the adjustments that you're going to make to get where you need to be. And it's also going to help reveal the outcome, right? And that's why these tools were developed for us, so that we can use these tools to really show not only ourselves where our team is, but where our team where we're headed and how we're going to get there.
Yeah, so we've actually got to become very good analysts. We've got to be able to observe. We've got to be able to really analyze what's going on and be able to then come to some conclusions and give some advice as leaders, just advice and some direction. Not, don't have to be, anyway, just give advice. And the other thing is for the businesses, for the physicians and healthcare and scanners and everybody else we work with, in some ways we become consultants for the business. We become consultants by analyzing all this information, by analyzing what we see, the time and movement, all of these different things. So I think our job is to be analytical and to become consultants for our teams, and each person motivated to do the same as we're doing. It's just a duplication.
Yeah, how are we going to get there? So, these tools that I mentioned, the wellness scoreboard, the whiteboard that we can keep track of our teams, it all depends on some concepts.
I was thinking if they ask me a question, I'm turning my video on, just like
Sorry about that. It all depends on how we build those components for our scoreboard. And so there's some things that you need to do to make a scoreboard vital to the growth of your organization. or the doctor's practice. And it's up to us to show not only our team members, and physician practices are part of our teams, how they can achieve these goals, how to set these goals, and then how to track them. So the first thing you need to do is define the game, right? And you need to sit down with the people within your organization, within the doctor's office, and discuss, things like what's their purpose, what's their vision, what's their mission, right? And then you can start to build strategies and measurables for how you're going to get there. In our case, it's the scanner. How many scans per day are we going to do? What's our goal? What's our volume per month or per week to get there, to get where we need to be to achieve brand rep, first of all, and then to get to Ruby. How many people are we going to talk to get 4 people on our team? And so, you have to set the upfront expectations for anything to be meaningful. And that's what these measurement tools that we have developed, that Stephen Moore's developed, to help us get there. The second thing you need to do is you need to figure out what your target is. What's the big picture? What do you want to achieve? The targets need to be specific, measurable, compelling, to help you get where you want to go. And then you need to look at some of the key performance indicators. So once you know what those targets are, you need to take a tape measure for your team's performance. Like Lawrence said, everything in life is measured, and it's just how we're measuring that and what we're measuring, right? And so, you need to look at the KPIs, those key performance indicators. How many prospects are we talking to? What's the number of potential team members that we have? And then how many of those people are we going to close? What's our production? And then what's our performance? How are we going to serve those people on our team, or serve those physician practices to make sure that they're hitting their goals?
Yeah, so even when we look at our team and we look at volumes and genealogy, for example, that's where we have a thermometer of how we're doing as individuals and as a team. And that's our job, is to be able to monitor that and to be able to give adequate advice, time use advice on what needs to be done and what is being done. So the VNG, the volumes and genealogy, for example, is a thermometer. And I think that's one of the things that is an indicator of to help us evaluate the speed with which we go forward, the consistency with which we go forward, the fact that we do go forward. And if we don't know that, then we can stagnate. We don't know from one month to the next what happened, and why it didn't happen, or why it didn't go forward.
Yeah, and once you define that game and figure out what your targets are, you look at the key performance indicators. Then you can look at the metrics. So the key performance indicators are the big numbers you need to hit. If you want to hit 10,000 in sales a month or 20,000 in sales a month, then the metrics are the smaller numbers that help you get there, right? And so it's really, if you look at the key performance indicator as a lag measure, and you look at the metric as a lead measure, it's just a different way to look at those lead and lag measures from the 4 disciplines. So the main point is not to do what everybody else is doing in business. There are some standard metrics that we can all use and that we can track, but what we really should be doing is tracking those metrics that are most meaningful to your team and its target, and focusing on those things that are going to move your team forward, right? And then finally, you need to look at those metric drivers. Metric drivers, these are the specific actions that you can take to move those measurables forward, to move that needle in the direction to meet your ultimate goal. So, if you look at an analogy, and we'll use football as an analogy, the game that we're defining is football, right? The target is a touchdown. How do we get to a touchdown? We look at the key performance indicators. We need 8 first downs or 9 first downs to move the ball 10 yards forward, at least 8 or 9 times to reach a touchdown, right? And then the metrics are, what are those plays that they call that is going to move that ball forward 10 yards so they can get another first down? And then the metric drivers are the specific actions of the players during each play call. Everybody plays a role in helping to hit those targets and those key performance indicators. And so you need to look at every single facet of the game, of the team, and define to everybody how you're going to get there.
So we used to, when we talk about metrics, we're talking about the compound effect of doing something to get it to the end, with the end in mind. One of the metrics was, for example, we still talk about, would you rather have $3 million or 1 penny to double for 31 days? And you'd be surprised, everybody says, I want $3 million. But if you work out the metrics of a penny to double every day for 31 times, in other words, for 31 days, the end is $10 million on the penny and not 3 million. So we've got to look at the minutiae of how to get to the bigger picture, to get to the bigger goal. And it's like you say, so many touchdowns, so many yards, so whatever we go forward. In our case, it's so many calls, so many three-way calls, how many subscriptions we have. These are all the measurables, excuse me, that we need to keep our eye on, and to be able to monitor and to be able to improve on each month as we go along, each week, and then each year. So these are all measurable, the key performance indicators.
So let's take a look at the wellness scoreboard that Dr. Moore developed. And we're lucky enough that Stephen is on the call today. So I'm going to call you out, Stephen. It doesn't look like you used your SPF 35 yesterday. You look like you got a little toasty out on the water. Could you just spend a little bit of time walking everybody through this scoreboard, how it relates to lead lag measures, and in this case, what we're talking about today is defining that game. What are the KPIs, the metrics, the metric drivers? All basically the same, just different terminology. So if you could just take 5 minutes and run us through this scoreboard and how you utilize this within a practice to help them reach their goals.
Yeah, so there's 4 steps in here for the scoreboard. Number 1 is to, what's the big goal in the 4. So this is based on the 4 disciplines of execution, or 4DX. There are a lot of really great resources online. Like we took a course and read the book, but there's I've got it downstairs. Actually, there's a bridge version. There's 1-pagers on it. So I'm right now looking at some different tools to easily get people on board and understanding these concepts. So if you look up anything regarding the 4 disciplines of execution, you can learn more about it. But the first one is to set the wildly important goal. And we had put in here the goal is whatever volume they want to hit by, and I like a 4-month goal. And so we know that within Nu Skin, people that hit 4,000 GSV, they tend to really grow a lot faster than people that are doing minimums. And we want people to not do the minimums, but to really have successful patterns. And so they can put in that number, but a guide that I like to use is 4,000 GSV by 4 months. Now, Lawrence has been encouraging me to be a little bit less technical, because sometimes I can be very technical and analytical with things. It's just kind of the way my mind works when I do problem solving. And he says, Steve, you've got to work on humanizing things a little more sometimes. And so I was thinking about this scoreboard, and we're going to be making an update to it that's going to add not just the goal as far as volume, but the number of patients we're helping every month as a big goal, as a way of humanizing it. And the staff now can get around, hey, we're helping 50 patients a month. The way we're helping them is getting on, we have 50 patients on subscription, right? So we'll be making an update to this, and I'll get some feedback, Dan, from you and Lawrence to say exactly how that should get laid out. But then the second thing is, this is the lag measure, right? So tracking the volume, this is every month they're going to write where that volume is going to be. So they're tracking it. I put a 5th month in there because just in case they don't hit it in month 4, doesn't mean they failed. We're kind of giving them a little bit of a grace just in case there. And then number 3, they're going to set their lead measures. So they're going to set their goals of how many scans they're going to do a day, how many subscriptions they're going to do a day. And Then there's a calendar here where they can then track every single day how they're doing. Lead measures are things that you can easily influence today that are predictable of achieving your goals. And we know for scan operators, the things that they can easily do today that are predictive of achieving their goals are the number of scans they do and the number of subscriptions that they convert over. So a good guideline that I like to use is 5 scans a day, 1 subscription. That when doctors do that consistently, that creates success. And when they do that consistently, they will also get better. When they do that consistently, they will hit a goal of 4,000 in volume easily. So what they would do here is they say, okay, we're going to do 5. Now, maybe a goal for an office, the bigger office, they might set a goal for 8 or 10. But the key here is to have goals that are achievable, right? Because it's so important that the team feels like they're winning. I mean, it's great to set big goals and dream and push yourself and really make goals that are really uncomfortable for yourself. But in this scenario, you want the team to win. And when people are winning, they're having more fun. When they feel like they're losing, they can get discouraged. So I would rather err into the goals daily activity being a little bit less than pushing it. And they can always elevate that, right? If they're doing 5 and 1, they can say, hey, you know what? I think we could get 7 a day. And they can make those adjustments on themselves and take ownership of it. So then in here, in each day, they're going to put the number of scans they did, and then they're going to put the number of subscriptions. If they hit the goal on both of those, they're going to draw a green line through that day. If they didn't hit the goals on either one of them, they're going to draw a red line. And the reason for that is when you look at a scoreboard, you need to be able to easily assess, are we winning or losing? Are we on a winning streak or are we on a losing streak? And when you can put enough winning days together, you create a winning week. When you can create enough winning weeks together, you create a winning month. When you can create enough winning months together, you're going to hit your goal. Okay, so that's the goal here, is to easily look at, see how they're doing. And then on the bottom side is this isn't really part of the 4 disciplines of execution, but it kind of is one of the goals that we know is that when the staff is engaged personally in improving their score and healthier behaviors, and they're getting excited about that and they're tracking it, they take more ownership of it, and it's easier for them to talk to patients about it, and they're more likely to have success. So having a staff challenge that says, hey, what are we all going to commit to as far as getting our score to? Is it 40,000? Is it 50,000? And then each staff member is going to write their name on the line here if they want to participate. If they want to participate, we no need to make the staff uncomfortable. You're always going to have some people that are not going to want to participate. And eventually, through consistency, you can start to influence them to get involved with this. And then what you're going to do then is draw a line. So first score with the date will be the line for, let's say, Sally with this first, actually, you guys can't see my cursor. I just realized that. With this first pinwheel here, whatever we want to call it, this score range, I think they call it a peacock. And then in a month later, they're going to then draw another line with the date and see where their score is. And month 3, they're going to draw the 3rd line. And month 4, they're going to draw the 4th line. And the goal is to help and get the staff around improving their score. And then the ones that are successful at doing that can inspire the others.
Awesome. Really good comprehensive overlook at how to utilize this tool, what everything kind of means, and how we can incorporate that into a physician practice. So during the integration process, we should really be encouraging these practices to really utilize this tool to help them track and measure what their targets are and how they're going to get there. So, we're making a really big push to have everybody make a concerted effort that as we move forward, we really spend a lot of time with these practices, making sure that they're integrated properly, make sure that we help them set goals and the lead and lag measures, how they're going to get there. So awesome, Stephen. Thank you very much for putting that together. We look forward to the enhancements that you're going to make, and Lawrence and I obviously more than happy to help out with that. So,
and I also, Dan, I just wanted to add as well, Scott and I are working with corporate to build these reports into the new scanner app as well. So we'll be able to, we're mapping all of those out so that these numbers will be even easier to access. So within a minute or so, they can log into the app and they can get caught up on any on any scores that they've missed. So I don't know when that's going to launch, but again, what we're doing right now is being embraced by the company as well to support us on the back end.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions on the scoreboard before we move forward? If not,
I have a question. So the peacocks at the bottom, it's one per employee, or is that
Correct.
5? Is it one for each month?
One for each employee.
Okay.
And every time they get scanned, they're going to put the line where they are with the number and the date.
Okay. Thank you.
maybe we could even come up with a tool where we have maybe a whole page of those peacocks and they can track some patients to humanize it a little bit more. So to Lawrence's point and your comments, where they can keep track of some of their patients, where they can visually see it. And then that's going to motivate them because they're actually, the staff's actually seeing them help their patients improve their scores. Mm-hmm. So, all right, awesome. Moving forward, I just want to touch base on the blank or on the whiteboard for helping to keep track of your personal teams. And you can obviously, utilize that scoreboard as well for your team if you prefer to do that. But I'm going to show you guys what the whiteboard looks like. And I'm going to ask Mike Cook if you could come off mute, because I know Mike uses this tool very, very effectively. And this is just a great way to be able to track your team, where everybody's at, personally, what their pin titles are, their level of qualification, how many recruits you're talking to per month, who you're going to focus on, who your lockers are, number of brand reps on each leg of your team, their goals for volume, their goals for the end of the month. Michael, if I know you're on the call. I don't know if you're busy, but if you could just quickly kind of run through this document, because I know you made some enhancements to it that I really love, and just kind of explain this and how you utilize this for those lead and lag measures on your team, and how you set targets and how you utilize this to reach your goals.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I am on my my iPhone, so it's a little bit tough to see, but as Dan mentioned, I do use this extensively, and I go through it with my upline to help with my, and also establish the goals of my downline. And in the upper left-hand corner, there's level of qualification. That's where you would put what, whether you're brand rep, diamond, or whatever. And new recruits last month, and then you want to compare, you want to try and have at least as many new recruits this month. Any notes that you want to make, if maybe you're on vacation for 2 weeks or something like that, then, that would affect obviously the progress. Total number of LOIs. So that's one of our goals that we want to try and achieve 3 new recruits with letter of intents a month. We put last month's volume, the goal for this month's volume, and also set that long-term goal for the end of the year. Now, as we go down through here, you notice that there's 6 positions here for brand reps. Why 6? Because with 6, you can maximize the compensation plan. You don't need 7 or 8, you need 6. You can become a blue diamond with 6. And then the C7, 8, and 9, those are business builder spots for blue diamonds. Once you get to that point, then you can fill those in. But as we move across, like number 1 there, you would put the person's name and their level of qualification, where they're at now, how many new recruits for the month, and what you're focusing on in their team. It could be a person, it's a goal of theirs. Now, you see the next one is a locker. That's someone underneath them that you believe is, or they have proven either way, is driving the business. You also want to focus on that locker, because when that locker underneath them becomes successful, it drives that person to be more successful so that they go deeper into their line, right? Total number of brand reps they have underneath them. And again, last month's goal, the goal that you set with them for this month, and their goal by the end of the year. So I see Steve just added a comment. I recommend adding a hot column for that hot molecule. That could be the focus also, but that's a good point, Steve. I put in BOCA and HCA, right? Because if we promote those events, that will grow our team. Boca obviously passed us, but we'll have another event in Boca. It hasn't been announced yet, but the HCA is the Utah event. Very, very important that we promote that and have our team promote that, because that is an indicator of how many people go to that event is directly related to how your team will grow. As we go on down here, you can set goals for your different pin titles and the total organizational volume. And then we see down here that I've added this spot down here for prospects. And in yellow is actually a column where you would put their name, the date that you first contacted them or met them, and then the follow-up touches that you've done with them. You know, it takes a minimum of 6 touches before I would consider eliminating someone from this page and adding them, you know, to another page. It's just going to get contacted occasionally. But I send them the scanner in the news, and I will put a little star there when I send them that. And then B1 is the video with Dr. Moore explaining the business. B2 is the part 2 of that video. SQ, I have an email that I send out about how to qualify for a scanner, how to, you know, both for reps and physicians, very detailed, so that they know how they can get their scanner and what they need to do to place a scanner. HCF, that's healthcare forum. I send an email out with the, promoting the healthcare forum. I want to be sure that every prospect gets that. And I've created some other emails. Get to know, 1 is get to know Life Pack. Get to know 2 is get to know Age Lock Youth. Get to know 3 is get to know Vitality. Why those? Good, better, best, right? That's what we're teaching the physicians to do. Those are our go-to products. And the science behind them, I put those in there. And with a lot of detail, so that they realize that the power that we have with our scientists, and you know, I got a Tanner Gibb video in there. The HCP is, I will select that. I will put an asterisk in there when they get their healthcare professional kit, an asterisk in LOI when they submit their letter of intent. And you can see that I have the abbreviations and definition of those over to the right, and also any notes on those prospects. So any questions on this so far? Oh, okay. So you've gone to one of the other pages. Yeah, so these are the lead measures that Dan was talking about before. And I just put some of these down here. You know, your business goals and the activities you're doing to move yourself forward in those, and personal goals. You know, maybe you'd like to spend, you know, some time gardening every day. I personally like to play the guitar for 20 minutes and exercise. And again, you can see there's an X there on Sunday. Well, I don't do any 3-way calls on Sunday typically. So, but you can see this is a way to monitor your goals there. So I hope that's been helpful.
Hey, Mike,
Yes.
is this updated document? Is this on the HCA Facebook page?
No, it is not. I'll get it up there later on today. This is something that Scott Bennett introduced to me, and I kind of tweaked it for myself. Added some things that I felt were important, and I've shared it with the direct members of my team, but I can certainly put it up on the HCA.
Oh, thanks. So, thanks for sharing this too.
Sure.
It's like when you make it a dynamic document, we can always continue to improve on it, just like you did the original one. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and so thank you very much, Michael. Very useful.
You're welcome.
But to my point, you know, the point isn't always to do what everybody else is doing. There are these standard metrics, right, and that we all, you know, want to keep track of. But you really need to track those metrics that are most meaningful to your team and its target, right? And so Mike may have a different target than your team. You know, maybe Mike's target is Team Elite. Maybe your target is 20,000 in volume a month, or whatever it may be, right? So you're going to have different metrics of how you're going to get there, metrics and metric drivers of how you're going to get there. So you need to develop and utilize this tool as a way to help your team get to where it's going, not doing what somebody else is necessarily doing.
accountability, the word accountants, accounts. It's numbers. It's be able to look, understand, analyze, measure, and take action. And basically that is a visual, and that is fantastic because it's a way to have daily constant updates on where we are, on what we're doing, and that is for the whole team. So you've got a visual there for every single person in your group so that you can keep track of them. And you don't have to you don't have to have 50 people. We're talking about just your core people that you work on, and then with your calls and so on, that's where you can multiply it. But Michael, excellent job. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. So as to Lawrence's point, we all need to be accountable to somebody. We need to be accountable to ourselves, but we also need to be accountable to the people on our team and let them know where they stand, how we're going to reach our goal, how we're going to reach those targets so that they can be accountable as team members as well. So I think we're going to open it up for a couple of questions here. It's a little bit past 10. If there's any specific questions, go ahead and take yourself off mute and ask. And if there's no questions, we'll wrap it up for the day.
No questions.
All right. We did
I wanted to comment here real quick. This is great what you guys are teaching because, just tracking these numbers, your mind has an amazing way to figure it out of what's going to work for you. And it's a struggle, right? But the key is just make progress. Don't worry about doing it perfectly. Try not to have zeros. If you have a few zeros in the day, then you can kind of kick yourself in the butt and say, okay, I need to figure out how to do this better.
Yep. And it's utilizing these tools and being able to adjust what you're doing on the fly to Jim's comment. Everything's it's never going to be stagnant, right? It's always going to be a work in progress. And so we need to kind of be adjusting our goals, adjusting our lead and lag measures or our lead measures to meet our lag on a pretty consistent basis. And these tools are developed to help you do that.
And if you even if you only do 10% a month, 8% a month, in a year, you've doubled what you've got now. Just think about that for a minute. And what you've got now is taken X amount of time, and you can double that, even going at a measurable 10% a month, 10% a month. By the end of the year, you can have double that.
So thanks, Lawrence. So before we wrap it up, I just want to make one comment. I was floating around on the internet this morning, and I saw an ad for a drug that's an add-on drug to statin drugs. And it's basically saying, hey, if you want to really get your your bad LDL under control, we have got a drug that you can take with your statin drug that's going to help you. And their tagline was, because you're human. And I just thought that was really funny. That they're actively promoting adding on another drug to a drug that's already supposed to be helping you, that nobody really tracks and measures. You get somebody puts you on a statin drug, and then you may not go back to the doctors for a year or two and have it checked and see whether or not it's actually working for you or not. Now they're saying, okay, well, the statin drug may not be working effectively, so now we've got an add-on drug that you can utilize on top of that. And these are kind of the things that we talk about, and I think why a lot of us are involved in this business, because there's a lot more that we can do to help people more holistically without them having to go on additional pharmaceuticals.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could remember the name of the drug. I tried to take a screenshot of it, but my search engine crashed and I couldn't find it again. But I thought it was interesting. So, all right, well, we're gonna wrap it up. Thanks everybody for joining us here. If you got any quick questions, we're happy to answer them quick. If not, we'll see everybody next Friday.
Next Monday.
No,
Dave,
well,
I'm going
Monday.
to challenge everybody to watch a video called "Just Do It" by what's the guy's name? Lawrence, the insurance guy. Oh my goodness, I'm drawing a blank right now.
The insurance guy.
I'll post it on Healthcare Alliance in a few.
Flo from Progressive.
No. There's a Art Freeman. That's who it is.
Okay.
I'll post it on Healthcare Alliance, but it's really just a great video.
Where do you find it, Stephen?
I'm going to post it on Healthcare Alliance.
Okay.
Art Williams, just do it.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks for joining us. We're going to wrap it up. Lawrence, thank you very much. Stephen, Michael, thanks for participating. I know it wasn't planned and I kind of called you guys out, but fantastic job. And I think it was very useful for everybody involved. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you next Monday, Wednesday at 9:30. And then again on Friday, obviously, for the call here with Lawrence and myself. Thanks for
Great job,
joining.
you guys. Thank you.
Have a great weekend.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Steve, Mike.
Thank you all.
Thank you.